Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to this broadcast of Jan Ki Baat. I have promised you that from July I will be will be very extensively communicating with you all on a very bigger and a larger scale on Jan Ki Baat and also on Indian television. But at this, as I say, that whenever something important happens and I believe that I want to communicate and interact with people, I do so. And I have a wonderful opportunity today to talk to two very wise gentlemen. One is a very good friend of mine, and other is a very renowned author. And a very good friend of mine is also a very good, very senior, very I would say, a very bold journalist, and he has recently launched his show also on NewsX. He's the founder of Goa Chronicle, a dear friend and co-author of Modi's Stole My Mask, SAVIO Rodriguez, and along with him is the co-author again, Amit Bagaria, who's penned quite a significant number of books. And this one, Modi Stole My Mask, which has been penned by both of them together, has really made it to the national headlines. It is there as the #1 bestseller in Amazon in 3 categories. And this book has really given depression pills to the latent media. So welcome, guys. Welcome to this exclusive conversation. Let me tell you that I will not be giving you full toss questions. Be ready to bat on a wicket where the Kookaburra ball swings like it swings in Australia. So welcome to this conversation with me.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. Let me start this, and first I want to understand from you guys, and you guys can choose to answer among yourself. What is the essence of this book, and why did you choose this topic? And why did you write this book? First of all, I want to understand what went into writing this book.
Yeah. Savio, your mic is mute, so you may want to unmute it. So, Pradeep, let me put it point blank that starting from about mid-March, I started noticing that lots of chats in WhatsApp groups started becoming anti-Modi. People started saying Modi must resign, he's the worst prime minister that we've had, etc., etc. And these messages were not just coming from, and I'm talking about my personal WhatsApp groups. These messages were not coming from just people who hated Modi, previously. These messages started coming from people who had voted for Modi in 2014 and 19 and were fans of his. And, it started getting irritating. And then personally, I mean, two very close family, let me put it like this, my own younger brother and my son, both started posting a lot of anti-Modi stuff. And I said, no, this is not correct, because the information, you may hate Modi, but hate him for a reason. The information that you're circulating is not correct, and therefore somebody has to counter this information with facts. And that's how the idea came about to write the book. When I started writing it, I realized myself, before starting to write the book, I didn't realize what I would write, right? I basically wanted to cover topics. Each topic would address a concern of the Indian population. So when I wrote the first two topics, the first one was a comparison between India's numbers, cases, deaths, etc., with large countries globally, with 20 other large countries globally. And when I finished writing that chapter of the book, I realized, oh my God, this story is not out there at all. And that's when I approached Savio and I said, Savio, can you carry this story as an article in Goa Chronicle? And to my surprise, Savio didn't reply to me, and I was like, okay, well, maybe he's not interested in carrying it. 4 minutes later, he sent me a link to the article. He had already published it, and after I wrote another article in Goa Chronicle within 3 days, again based on a chapter of the book, then Savio called me up and he said, can I become a co-author? And of course, we collaborated. We broke up different chapters of the book, who would write what.
So
And
yeah, so I will get into the specifics of it. And Savio, and I want to ask this to you, and again, you have to choose between yourself to answer. And I have gone through some parts of the book. So you go ahead and say that on the 67th day, the number of cases in India were 4.23 times the first week, the peak of the first wave. Could India have predicted it? and then you say that it is unfair to compare it with, say, an Italy which has 4.34 percentage of Indian population. Very fair, correct. Now you make a comparison where you say that the peak for 18 countries was only 1.27 times. So the second peak was 1.27 times more than the first peak in 18 countries, and the 18 out of 19 countries that you studied. But in India's case, it was 4.23 times. So now the question is, I completely agree with you that even Adar Punewala has said, and a lot of medical health experts have said, and you have reiterated it in your book with facts, that it was not near to impossible for any government to prepare for it. But my question to you is that you go ahead and ask for sacking of the principal scientific advisor who claimed that the second wave will be not as fierce as the first wave. But the government of India has not done it. The Prime Minister has not done it. Do you feel that no heads have rolled in the second wave, and that has been something which is a cause of concern? Because I understand that the Prime Minister is completely wise, and the Prime Minister, when he was presented with facts, he completely took the necessary action. But what about the principal scientific advisor and the other officials who were responsible for tracking the second wave?
Go ahead, sorry.
Well, my personal opinion, and that of Amit as well, is that those who are responsible for misreading the pandemic, the second wave of the pandemic, heads need to roll. It's as simple as that. We have presented the facts. The facts have been presented to the government as well through the book. The Prime Minister, we are told, has also read the book. And there are certain corrective actions that the government is taking. We can't disclose that at this point of time simply because they need to reach a logical conclusion. But the fact of the matter is, yes, there were many things that could have been done differently. But the truth is that it was not really a pandemic situation that we were dealing with, Pradeep. The pandemic was the health crisis aspect of it, which many countries around the world were facing. And India started to see a large number of cases going up. It was the pandemic that was done by the agents of China over here. When I'm creating a comparison, we believe that the pandemic source is China. The pandemic source is the Chinese agents in India. Because what started happening is the shortages that were available for an unplanned health crisis that happened was getting amplified by the negativity, by the chaos, by the fear psychosis, and more so by the confusion. That was what was causing even greater harm than the unavailability of the required health infrastructure. So should the heads in government roll for not taking appropriate actions from the center as well as the other states? The answer is yes. That there are people who were responsible to see it coming. But you see, Pradeep, sometimes you can predict a weather forecast and expect large tidal waves to happen. But you can never predict a tsunami. If people could have predicted a tsunami, then the tsunami cases could not have happened. So for people calling this a second wave, I think it's absolutely incorrect, because it was not a second wave. It was actually a tsunami that you were dealing with. And that is why in a tsunami, you've got to let go with dealing with the crisis first and then looking at the solutions later.
I'll just, Pradeep,
Amit, I want to take that question further. And Savio has used a very important term. And guys, the viewers who are joining us, and this has already gone viral on Twitter, because let me tell you, Savio, that we live, not just live tweet, but we also live because we believe that the Indian social media platform needs to come up, and you're also promoting it heavily. Savio made a point. Amit, Savio said a term called as pandemic. Now, I completely agree with it, because in your book you mentioned it, about a gang of co-vultures. I'll come to that. But my question to you is, a lot of critics have been saying that fair enough, yes, it is the crisis was disproportionate, and the Prime Minister, when he was presented with the facts, he tried to do whatever possible, and now we have come out of it, which has to be the credit of the entire Indian state, including the people of the country. But my question is, in January 2021, Amit, the government started to celebrate that India has completely come over the first wave. So do you feel that the advisors who are advising the Prime Minister and the government completely miscalculated it. They should not have planned for an early celebration, because the analogy which was used, that like India has won over Australia, has done concedingly well over Australia in cricket. The India has defeated the first wave of COVID-19. Do you agree that we somehow did not anticipate, if not this pandemic, even if the scale was less, but we were somewhere careless?
Yes, I agree with that. Yes, we were. We should have anticipated the second wave, even if we didn't anticipate, like, the 4.23 number. We should have still planned for it. But then, Pradeep, it's very important to know that it's not that the government was completely silent on it. In January itself, it had started speaking to the states where the numbers were growing. And even during the election campaign, the Prime Minister has been blamed a lot for not doing anything and just campaigning for elections. But it's not true. During the election campaign, he had four he had four virtual conferences with chief ministers of all states. During the election campaign, he had a total of 6 before the second wave started. So it's not that the government was completely silent. And but yes, there are some officials to blame. No doubt about that. No doubt about that.
SAVIO, you said that a lot of people on the payrolls of China were planning this pandemic and looking at this pandemic as an opportunity. Now, if you remember that you were one of the first votaries of an investigation into the quote-unquote secret pact of the Congress, alleged secret pact of the Congress Party with the Communist Party of China. Now, you also had pinned your tweet for a number of days. I have not gone to your Twitter profile today, but you pinned your tweet asking the BJP President JP Nadda to order an inquiry about the alleged links of the Congress Party with the Communist Party of China. And you have also mentioned about this in your book. Now, my question to you is, these co-vultures, which you use, the term rightly used by you in your book, we only talk about outrage, but we do not see any necessary conclusion of the investigation. So even in the Chinese front, if there are evidences which you have also presented, why do you feel that the Indian investigative agencies are not completely going towards concluding them and booking those people who were allegedly been involved with China?
Well, that's a very good question, Pradeep. Simply because I feel that the government has been extremely lax as far as the MOU of 2008 is concerned. The MOU of 2008 that was signed by the International Liaison Department of the Communist Party of China and the Indian National Congress is something that needs to be investigated, simply because the International Liaison Department of the CCP is a foreign covert intelligence unit. Now, when a national party that was in government at that point of time, because UPA was the government at that time, going to be forming the government, you have the party and the Communist Party of China signing an agreement with the Foreign Covert Intelligence Agency, a foreign covert intelligence agency known to work with politicians, work with companies, MSME companies, work with spending money, getting information. Look at the recent articles we've done. The recent articles will show you that there are so many loan-related apps that people have been using from China and India. And there are 3 cases that have been found out. One was a 1,000 crore scam. The other one is a 1,100 crore scam. And yesterday, the Karnataka cybercrime busted a 290 crore scam. And all of them have links to the PLA, which is the People's Liberation Army of China. They were Chinese spies. In fact, one of them was a spy who was caught at the border, and he had a hotel in Gurgaon. Now, this is the kind of penetration you're having. How on earth did a Chinese gentleman manage to get an Aadhaar card and a PAN card to set up 7 companies in India? Not one of them, but all 4 cases have people who had companies in India. How did they manage to do that? So there is an infiltration that is happening, but the government must get serious. And the seriousness starts from the Congress Party itself that signed that MOU with ILD. And there has to be some action, but there's been
Amit, taking forward this only, I will give
Very
you an
important.
example. There was Amit.
Very
Amit, taking
important.
this forward from your book, taking this forward from your book only because I have really loved the way you have presented the facts and you called a spade. And people should really go ahead. I would urge the viewers and the people of this country to go and read this book because it's a very honest effort. You can disagree, agree, but it's an honest effort of facts. Amit, taking forward what Savio said, and I want to further prod you on this. Now, I will give you an example. Let's say for the toolkit controversy which happened where which the certain parts of that you have also discussed in your book. But as I speak to you today, days after the entire alleged Congress toolkit was exposed by the Bharatiya Janata Party national spokesperson Sambit Patra, I do not see any action. I only see an outrage of 24 hours to 48 hours. But what after that is the question, Amit? Has this only become has it only become something where outrage will happen, certain political brownie points will be scored, but the real culprits who have to be made accountable if there are if there are merits in prima facie evidence are not made so.
I mean, that's been going on since 2014, right? Nothing is new
True.
about it. I mean,
Yes.
there are things that Mr. Modi said in his election campaign that he will put every corrupt person in every corrupt politician in jail, but he hasn't done that. Pradeep, very important to understand. Toolkit is a very small part of the pandemic because the Navneet Kalra and his partners in crime, they started importing oxygen concentrators in November when the first wave was actually on a steep decline, right? In the first wave, we never heard of the shortage of oxygen. Then why were they importing oxygen concentrators in November when the first wave was declining? Number two, why did the Congress party, why did they recruit 5 lakh social media so-called volunteers? They are paid, so they're not really volunteers. Why did they recruit a social media army of 5 lakh people, which is 8.5 times the size of Facebook's entire employee strength and 33 times BJP IT cell number? Why did they recruit them 32 days before the second wave started? I think that's a far more important question than
Very
just the
important.
toolkit.
That's a very, very important point. So, can let me ask you very bluntly, are you telling me that the Congress party, when it recruited these more than 5 lakh social media volunteers 32 days before the second pandemic started, are you saying that the Congress party had some information from China, according to you?
What we have very clearly said in the book is that did they have a hand in glove with China and other anti-India
Sabo,
forces?
if that is the scenario, it's treacherous. It calls for something which is anti-national, and anything which is anti-national, if it is true, cannot be pardoned. But my again question, and why I'm repeating on this fact, is that what I see is that a crime of such grave order, if there are prima facie alleged crime of such grave order, cannot just be cannot just be a 24-hour outrage because if what is being pointed out, if this requires investigation and at least this requires transparency and clarity that what exactly, how it happened, why did it happen, or was it just a political weapon of 24 hours?
I completely agree. I completely agree. And if a political party like the BJP is unable to do it, let me tell you, Pradeep, that Savio and I, along with a few other people, we are starting. We are starting by filing a PIL against all the people, all the prominent people of India who made people refuse vaccines. So who caused vaccine, hesitance in India. People like Prashant Bhushan and Shashi Tharoor and several other Congress party members, Akhilesh Yadav. So cartoonist Satish Acharya. So we have put together a list of about 15, 20 well-known personalities who spoke so much against vaccination that because of that, a lot of vaccine, not only was a lot of vaccine hesitancy there, Dr.
Yeah,
Ella himself, the owner of Bharat Biotech, did not expand the Covaxin manufacturing facility
I
because he
remember.
thought nobody's
I
going to
remember.
use
I think,
Covaxin.
Samuel, we in this country have a syndrome that anything which is Indian, if it has a global impact or positivity or a global scale product, we tend to look down upon it. And that has been the case. And that's why I think there was a concerted effort to look down on Covaxin and Bharat Biotech, which is now coming up with world's, I think, first nasal vaccine if it comes out. Savio.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem. But Pradeep, taking forward from what Amit was saying, it's very important to study timelines, important to study data points. Now, one of the interesting data points beside the fear psychosis over oxygen concentrators has been vaccines. Right from the onset of the vaccine, whether it was whether it was the Serum Institute's vaccine or whether it was even the Covaxin, there's been a lot of negativity that's being spread by certain political leaders over the vaccination drive that the country needs to undertake. And that is causing a lot of vaccine hesitancy across groups. You can take it in a small state like Goa, for example, where I live. Even here, people are so confused about taking a vaccine because of the misinformation. We need to end that. And that is why the government, I'm saying that again, the government must come strict on these people who are spreading misinformation as far as the vaccine is concerned. The vaccine does not have a complete cure, no doubt.
True.
None of them has got 100% efficacy. But the fact of the matter that it does help you combat the virus that is there and the different mutancy that the virus is having as far as India is concerned. This is just the step forward. We don't know what the warfare of China has in mind over the next coming weeks or months. But at least in the initial stage, we must protect ourselves. But in order to do that, the government must get strict as far as those who are spreading misinformation on vaccines and must penalize them.
I completely agree, Savio. In fact, there is a comment of a very immature comment, I would say, of asking, why did Dr. K.K. Agrawal pass away after vaccination? Now, the issue is that there is an entire anti-vaccine lobby, Amit, which is continuing to spread this fear and canard that taking vaccine will lead to other side effects. Now, what have you come across if you look at facts, Savio and Amit? Because there is another I'm seeing a conspiracy which is going on because the WHO has not approved Covaxin as of now for international travels. A lot of people have again started to question Covaxin over Covishield. Amit.
So it's not, Pradeep, it's not the anti-vaccine lobby. Let me be very, very, very clear. It's the anti-open bracket non-Pfizer vaccine close bracket.
Yeah, you got it. You got that. I think that's very well put because they have somehow issues of we making indigenous vaccines and not completely taking it from these companies. Go ahead, Amit.
So it's not only the Indian-made Covaxin, right? They also tried to stop Covishield, which is a British vaccine developed by Oxford University with AstraZeneca. What did they do? The US government, okay, and Pradeep, this is very important, and this is something that I'm very sure watching you on television for so many years you'd love to hear, okay, that it's the US government, based on pressure from the pharma lobby being the second largest business lobby in the US, they stopped sending raw materials to Serum Institute so that not only would the Covishield production fall, but Serum Institute's agreement with Novavax to make Novavax in India, and Novavax should have started production this month, that has been delayed by 4 months. Okay? But we have speculated in our book, Pradeep, that when Sri Ajit Doval, our national security advisor, for those who don't know, spoke to his counterpart, the US National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, within minutes, the problem got sorted out. And one of the things that we have speculated in the book is that why would a national security advisor have to speak to the US National Security Advisor? Shouldn't it have been the foreign minister or, even the health minister or, some other more relevant functionary? Our speculation is that Mr. Doval told Jack Sullivan that India is going to blacklist Lockheed Martin and Boeing from the next round of bidding for the 114 jets, which is a continuation of the program to buy the Rafales. Right? Lockheed Martin being the world's largest defense contractor.
It is the old, if your speculation is true, it's the old school Doval diplomacy, where, you always represent your country from an era, from a position of strength, which I completely agree to it. But, Savio, I want to take forward the main culprit, according to my individual analysis, is China. Now, the point is that G7 says that it is ready to counter-fund, have a counter mechanism of funding countries requiring infrastructure long-term infrastructure funding in order to counter China's Belt Road Initiative. But you pointed out in your book also in the past that how the last SARS virus, China, which also originated from China, nothing happened and no inquiry was there. Now,
Correct.
my point is that as we speak, still there is hardly any inquiry on China. Rarely are people calling it a Chinese virus. Is it because that lot of people are on payrolls of China? And if that is the case, what are we as a country doing? And what is our what according to you guys, because you've researched and it very very minutely, what should be our diplomatic strategy to put it straight in a straightforward manner?
So let me put this as direct as possible. China has actually unleashed a bioweapon on the world. And China has bought a bio warfare not at our borders, not at our doorstep, but right in our houses, in our homes. Innocent people are dying because China has decided to unleash its bioweapons in our home. Now, this is a war. It's a war against humanity, and this is terrorism in its real outlook. So, no matter what you think of China, and no matter what economic considerations you might have with China, you must remember that China is playing a war as far as India is concerned. China was allowed to play that war right up till 2014 because of that MOU that Rahul Gandhi signed with the ILD. Because there were four important aspects of that MOU. One is the combining together as far as infrastructure was concerned, as far as youth empowerment was concerned, as far as technology was concerned, and fourthly, as far as trade was concerned. So they were to work together in four of these spectrums that Mrs. Gandhi spoke about at the Xinjiao interview that she had done. It was a written interview that she replied back to, way back in 2009 or something, after she signed the MOU. The point is, everybody knows what China is all about. They know where these vaccines come from. They know about the labs. They know about the security about the labs. Even US raised the issue. That's why you would see their NIH databases where they've highlighted the security concerns they had about the biolabs in China. The fact of the matter is now, what do we do about it? India continues to play a diplomatic stance. India will continue to be quiet about it. If India stays quiet about it, you know for sure that there's going to be another attack coming from China. This is not China's first bio warfare, by the way. SARS was China's first bio warfare, the one in 2003 that came out.
You say everybody knows about it, but most of the people are quiet about it. China only reported 4,636 deaths in all the major countries. The death and the number of case counts increased by 35 times between the first and the second wave. But my question to you, Savio, is that if such a country like the United States of America, which is completely quiet, and there were times, Amit, when Donald Trump used to call it as a Chinese virus, and the entire United States of America media, was on a tirade in a campaign to somehow deride Trump's claim. I look at the entire global context of just not China, but a lot of people, even in United States of America, which had vested interest in getting down Donald Trump, and now maybe in the part of the establishment, are ensuring that there is nothing which happens against the WHO chief, Dr. Tedros, which Savio had asked for being sacked. In fact, you guys go ahead and say in your book that Xi Jinping should be tried as a war criminal. Is that even practically possible?
Yes. It is.
Yes,
How?
it is possible, Pradeep. With, like Savio just mentioned, it's not going to be done by any country because every country in the world has diplomatic constraints. Because of the diplomatic constraints, they're not going to be able to take action against China. But if you take 0.5% of the population of the world, which has been COVID positive. So if you take, about 17.64 crore people till date have been COVID positive, you take 0.5% of that, and either the survivors who have not passed away or a family member or a friend, 0.5% of those becomes 8.6 lakh people. If 8.6 lakh people can come together, or even if the number is 5 lakh or 4 lakh or 3 lakh, it's still a big number, can come together, form an organization like an NGO, and file a case at the International Court of Justice in The Hague.
All of them are paid. Most of them might be having funding from China. As you've seen, WHO is being funded heavily by China. And Savio, in fact, in one of his articles of Goa Chronicle, pointed out how the recent changes in WHO are also influenced by China. So I think that is a good stand, but I don't look at it.
We're talking about a people's movement. We're talking about a people's movement. We're not talking about an existing organization.
Correct.
We're saying a people's movement. A group of 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakh, 5 lakh people who get together. And then
Amit, I agree with that. But Savio, what shocks me completely is that as per recent reports, China will overtake the Chinese currency will overtake the dollar in the years to come. In fact, by 2028, if I'm not wrong. And China is now the Chinese economy is not down after COVID-19, either the first or the second wave. It is completely open. Why is the United States of America sleeping is my question, Savio. You need to tell, because you keep on investigating. Why is Joe Biden sleeping?
Joe Biden is sleeping is because China has bought over America. Look at all their businesses. It's controlled by America. What Joe Biden is doing right now, Pradeep, he's only playing to the galleries. He's absolutely going to do nothing. Because if you actually go into the history of the experiments that happened on these really lethal viruses, you would find that the Obama administration has got some hand in funding Professor Xi Jinping's works. And it's not also Professor Xi Jinping. You will have at least 4 or 5 professors at different stages that are involved with very dangerous vaccines. One was based out of Canada. Canada has not even come into this fray where there were lethal vaccines, where a scientist working in Canadian labs was actually caught at the airport, and then they found out that she was spying for China, she and her husband. So Chinese have actually infiltrated a lot of these international spectrums.
Maybe, Savio, you never know. They would have also infiltrated people in your state. I fear a lot of people are in China's payrolls and pharmaceutical companies. Amit, if a country in Africa if this virus would have somehow come from a country in Africa, the entire global community of the UNSC to every other United Nations would have gone ahead and blacklisting such countries. But on China, they are completely silent. It speaks about a simple principle. If you have strength, you can go ahead and do anything and everything, and go ahead and do anything in this world. Do you agree with me on that?
You're 100% correct, Pradeep. That's why it requires a people's movement. But you asked a question about Joe Biden. Now, something very interesting that I have been studying for the last 20-25 days after finishing the book. Look at the vaccination drop in the US. The daily vaccination has crashed in the US. In the last 10 days alone, India has given 3 times more vaccine doses than the US. Okay? And every single day, both Biden and Kamala Harris are being forced to put out tweets begging people to get vaccinated. And they even put out tweets saying Uber and Lyft are carrying people free to vaccination centers, do this, vaccines are free, get vaccinated. But the reality is that apart from those 44-45% of the people, of the population of the US, which has got vaccinated, other people are not coming forward. Like I said, India is vaccinated 3 times more in the past 10 days. Now that means that the third wave in the US, is lurking around the corner.
That's a very big, very, very important claim, or very important observation. Savio and Amit, let me be honest. And let me say that a lot of critics have been pointing out 2 things about the book, which I really need clarification. Any book which does good have critics, and you should be thankful that you have critics. Like, I always am happy that I have critics, because critics make your book popular or your work popular. Can I be honest, Amit? Can I be honest, Savio?
Sure, of course.
Can I go ahead and ask the 2 questions which the critics have been asking you?
Of course.
Sure.
The question is, Amit and Savio, in 2010, Manmohan Singh was rated as 18th most powerful personality by Forbes. Now, my point to you is that you say, And in fact, it is true that India has helped more than 90 countries and in terms of supplying vaccine. But there is an entire global media which has gone ahead and to show India in a very, very bad and a poor light. But wasn't that expected? Since Narendra Modi came into power, wasn't that expected that it is a fight between the new ecosystem and and those who had already been claimants of power? So why Savio say this, that there is an entire anti-Modi, I would say, conspiracy globally and nationally. That is evident. That is how politics is. So why are we being so empathetic and sympathetic about it? It is part of the war.
No, I'll tell you where. Let me explain why we're saying that. You see, Pradeep, in politics, we can understand when you're dealing with socio-political or economic issues, and then you use the media mechanism to disseminate propaganda or whatever your version of stories are all about. But we are dealing with a health crisis where people are losing lives. One would have expected the media, irrespective of their hatred for Modi or the Indian government, they would have expected to at least have love for the people that are part of their community, right? So when people were dying, people were losing lives, there was shortage of oxygen, or amplified shortages created about the beds. The least you would have expected from the media is, all right, Modi must have failed us, as you right, they have been saying in most media, but let's not fail the country. The problem Amit and I have is that they have failed the country with the misreportage that they're doing. Even today, Satish Acharya, the cartoonist, for an example, continues to put out these cartoons against vaccination. That is where it is wrong, Pradeep. That is when it's an anti-Modi brigade. Because that's where the problem is.
Can I make a light-hearted comment? In this country, when you do right reporting like I did in Maharashtra, you get booked by FIRs and FIRs. And when you spread fake news, you do not get booked and you get a lot of publicity in Latin's media. Well, I completely agree with Amit and Savio. I'm running out of time. Let me tell you the best.
Hello.
Is this, oh my god, yeah, we've got the connection back. The best line, Amit and Savio, which I like from the book, which is an Ajay Devgan dialogue which you've used: कुत्तों का झुंड कितना ही बड़ा क्यों ना हो, एक अकेला शेर ही उसके लिए काफी है. I think that is a very, very wonderful line, Amit and Savio. With that, any closing comments which you want to give on the book to the viewers? This discussion has really fascinated a lot of people. It has really got people talking about. Amit, Savio, closing comments to you.
Go ahead, Amit.
So what I would say, Pradeep, is as simple as this. Hate Modi or love him, like him or dislike him, that's not the reason why you should read this book. If you like India or love India or adore India or you're a patriot, then you must read this book, because India has been harmed during the second wave, not just through the pandemic, but through the pandemic. India has been harmed. And was the harm caused on India correct or not? You will get your answers in Modi Stole My Mask.
Savio.
But primarily, all I want to tell the people through your program is that if we have to fight a health crisis, we need to understand what the health crisis was all about. Where were our mistakes as a country, including the mistakes of the government, including us as people of this wonderful nation. If we have to face further such health crises in the future, that's when we read Modi Stole My Mask.
Chinese conspiracy, Savio, Chinese conspiracy, not just the health crisis, I would say.
Yes, so the health crisis, the Chinese conspiracy is loud and clear. It's time for the Indian government to accept the fact that it is a Chinese conspiracy. The Indian government is obviously not going to take that stand because of diplomatic reasons. But I can very confidently say with Amit that this is a China bioweapon. And I've said it even to people concerned. We've sent a copy. Amit doesn't know, but the Premier of China has received the ebook from us. We've sent him a copy. I'm sending one to Xi Jinping as well. When the hard copy comes out, Do you think China
When
is going
I'm
to
waiting for
respond?
the
No.
time, when I'm waiting for the time, Savio, I'm completely running out of time. अमित, मैं उस दिन का इंतजार कर रहा हूँ कि जब शी जिनपिंग या तो सैवियो को एक इंटरव्यू देंगे या मुझे एक इंटरव्यू देंगे और उसको चाइनीज मीडिया के बाहर भी टेलीकास्ट किया जाएगा, दूध का दूध और पानी का पानी हो जाएगा। मैं एक बात से सहमत हूँ जो अमित और सैवियो ने कही है कि भाई आपको मोदी से नफरत करनी है, प्यार करना है, जो करना है करिए, पर देश से आपको नफरत नहीं करनी चाहिए और अपनी गिरवी रखते हैं कि एक 5G आ जाए। मैं कह रहा हूं अगर आप देश को गिरवी रखते हैं तो आप अपने साथ सबसे बड़ा छलावा कर रहे हैं और अपने आने वाली जनरेशन से छलावा करें। पर मेरा ये मानना है साथियों कि बीजेपी को सिर्फ इन बड़े बड़े गंभीर मुद्दों पे आउटरेज नहीं करना चाहिए, उस पे एक्शन पे भी जाना चाहिए, वरना सिर्फ ये आउटरेज 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 रह के रह जाएगी। ये जो फैक्ट्स अमित और साथियों ने अपनी किताब में पॉइंट किए, दर्शकों जाइए पढ़िए इसको, उसके बाद आपको इनको क्रिटिसाइज करना है करिए, इनकी वाहवाही करनी करिए, पर पढ़िए जरूर, जितना ज्यादा पढ़ेंगे उतना ज्यादा सीखेंगे। मेरे साथ जुड़ने के लिए साथियों अमित बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, शुक्रिया, ख्याल रखिए, जल्द आपकी मुलाकात होगी। थैंक यू, शुक्रिया,
नमस्कार, थैंक यू,
Bye.
नमस्कार।